The evening air was soft, the kind of spring breeze that seemed to carry with it the scent of blooming flowers and the faint hum of distant music from a cafe down the street. Sophia Bennett walked slowly along the cobblestone path toward Ethan Carter's apartment, her heart already dancing with the anticipation of seeing him. She had been counting down the hours all day. Every message they had exchanged since morning carried that gentle teasing tone they always shared, playful words that somehow always made her cheeks flush. When she finally reached his door, she barely had time to knock before it swung open, revealing Ethan in a white t-shirt and gray sweatpants, barefoot, hair slightly messy, as if he'd just run his hand through it 1,000 times. He didn't say a word at first. He simply smiled that lopsided smile she loved, the one that made his dimples appear, and then pulled her into his arms in a hug so tight, so warm, she felt the weight of the entire day dissolve. "You're here," he whispered against her hair, as though she had crossed an ocean to reach him. She could feel the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her cheek, and with each second, she realized she never wanted to let go. Inside, the apartment smelled faintly of vanilla and cinnamon, candles flickering in the corners, casting golden light across the room. Soft jazz played low in the background, and on the coffee table, there was a plate of strawberries and 2 glasses of red wine. Ethan guided her to the couch, his hand lingering on the small of her back. "I thought we could just be," he said, his voice calm and warm. "No plans. Just you and me." She nodded, feeling her chest swell with affection. They talked at first about little things. How her day at the gallery had gone, how his new project at work was shaping up. Their laughter came easily, flowing between them like a shared secret. Sometimes they didn't even need to speak. Their eyes carried entire conversations. When Ethan leaned forward to brush a strand of hair from her face, she felt her breath catch. His touch was deliberate, yet tender, his gaze fixed on her as though she were the only thing that existed in the room. At some point, she leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. He kissed the top of her head, and that small act sent a shiver down her spine. He shifted, wrapping both arms around her so tightly that she was completely enveloped in his warmth. His breath was steady against her temple, his heartbeat strong under her palm where it rested on his chest. "You feel safe here?" he murmured. She nodded without hesitation. "With you? Always." The night unfolded slowly, like a delicate piece of music. They moved from the couch to the balcony, where the city lights shimmered like stars scattered on the ground. Sophia leaned against the railing, and Ethan stood behind her, his arms looping around her waist. The breeze carried the faint scent of rain, and somewhere below, a couple was laughing, their joy echoing upward. "Do you ever think about the future?" Sophia asked softly. Ethan's arms tightened slightly. "Every day. And you're in every version of it." She turned to face him, her heart swelling at the certainty in his voice. They kissed then, not hurried, not desperate, but deep and lingering, as if each moment was an unspoken vow. Her hand slid up to his neck, fingers tangling in his hair. His lips moved against hers with a sweetness that made her knees weak. When they finally pulled apart, she found herself smiling against his cheek. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you more," he replied, pressing another kiss to her forehead. Later, back inside, the night deepened. They curled up in bed, the world outside fading away entirely. The quiet between them was intimate, filled with the sound of their breathing and the gentle rustle of sheets. Ethan traced slow patterns along her arm, his touch feather-light yet electric. She tilted her face up to him, and he kissed her again, soft at first, then with a growing intensity that made her feel like she was melting into him completely. Their bodies moved together with an unspoken understanding, every gesture filled with love, every touch saying what words couldn't. Time lost its meaning. The night became a world of its own, a place where nothing existed except the feel of him holding her close, the warmth of his skin against hers, the way he whispered her name like a promise. She could barely breathe from the rush of emotion, from the way his love seemed to wrap around her entirely. It wasn't just desire. It was devotion, the kind that made her believe in forever. Hours passed in a blur of kisses, laughter, and whispered dreams. When dawn began to creep through the curtains, painting the room in pale gold, they lay tangled together, neither wanting to move. "I wish this night could last forever," Sofia murmured. Ethan smiled sleepily, pressing his lips to her hair. "It will in here," he said, placing her hand over his heart. Weeks later, they would remember that night as the one where something shifted. They were already in love, but it had deepened in a way they couldn't quite explain, like roots growing deeper into the earth. They spent more evenings together, more mornings waking up to each other's smiles. And then, one crisp autumn morning, Sofia sat across from Ethan at their favorite cafe, her fingers trembling slightly as she held a small envelope in her lap. "I have something to tell you," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's eyes immediately softened with concern and curiosity. "What is it?" She slid the envelope across the table. Inside was a sonogram picture, the tiny outline of a new life growing. Ethan stared for a moment, his lips parting, his eyes glistening. "Where?" She nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "We're having a baby, Ethan." For a second, he just sat there, his breath catching. Then he was up, pulling her into his arms, lifting her slightly off the ground in the middle of the cafe. He laughed, a pure, unrestrained sound, and pressed his forehead to hers. "A boy," he whispered. "I don't know why, but I feel it. We're having a boy." From that day forward, their love seemed to glow even brighter. They prepared for their son together, painting the nursery, folding tiny clothes, dreaming about the future. And every night, without fail, Ethan would hold Sofia close, just like he had that night when their love felt so overwhelming she could barely breathe. Only now, there was a new heartbeat joining theirs, a little reminder of the night that had changed everything. And when their baby boy arrived, tiny, perfect, with Ethan's dimples and Sofia's dark eyes, they both knew that their love story had only just begun.